love hand watering. It gives me a great opportunity to observe what's really happening in the garden every single day. But the truth is I'm getting busier and it is getting hotter and drier. And so today I want to put in a drip system to help me water my garden more efficiently and more effectively. Now, a lot of people are a bit intimidated by irrigation, but it can be quite simple. The first thing you need to know is how much water you have to work with. Time how long it takes to fill a bucket. This is a 10-litre bucket and it took about 15 seconds to fill. Now, in a 60-second minute, you get 4 lots of 15. So that means I get 4 buckets per minute of water, 40 litres. Now, in an hour, there are 60 minutes. So 40 times 60 gives me my total amount of water that I have to use. Just like everything else in the garden, it'll always be most effective when you've got a plan. So once you've got your flow rate, you can look at the areas that you want to water and ensure you've got enough supply from that water source to cover what you need. I've drawn a mud map of the 7 beds that I want the system to water. Each is about 5 metres long by about 1 metre wide. Now, with this information plus your flow rate, you can go and get some help from an expert to make a plan. And if you want some more information, you can hit up our website. You don't need many extra tools to do a job like this. In fact, my secateurs do most of them, but a trenching shovel will help so much. And a thermos is a great little bit of kit. Now you can see we've got this great trench here. In winter, it actually acts like a really effective drain for too much rain. But in summer and those warmer months, it gives an opportunity to use it for things like this. So I've run a feeder pipe from the water source all the way along the edge of each of the gardens. And it's a large pipe, it's 19 millimetres, which means we're going to maintain as much water flow as we can all the way down the slope. While the garden is essentially one large area, it is on a gentle slope. So I've decided to divide it into 2 separate watering areas. The top of the slope dries out much more quickly, so I'm going to put that on a separate line to these lower beds, which hold the moisture for much longer. I'm going to water them as a group, but at times we're going to have different needs in individual beds. Like this bed, when you sow out some seeds, for those first few weeks while they germinate and get established, it's difficult for them to actually reach the water from a dripper. So top watering is going to be much more effective. So each of the beds, of course, has its own feed line, and this is where the drip irrigation will join. I'm going to attach it to this feeder pipe, and of course I've put a tap on every single bed, so if I need to, I can switch it off. And the next step is to attach the manifold to that feeder pipe. So I'm just going to line it up about where it's going to sit in the bed and then cut that pipe. Next thing, I'm going to fit the T, which goes from that 19mm feeder pipe down to the smaller size for the drip. Now I've got to attach the manifold that's going to feed my drip to that T. Now this is where a little bit of hot water can go a long way. If you're doing lots of joins, dipping that pipe in will soften it up and make it much easier to join. Now I've just got to lay that pipe out in the bed. So you can see that I'm using a pipe that actually has inbuilt drippers. They're pressure regulated, which means that they'll let the same amount of water, 2 litres, from each of those drippers out. And I've spaced the pipe a little bit closer than recommended because I want to get a really even wet across the bed. It'll mean I run it for a shorter period, but I'll get great delivery of water for every crop that I grow. Now for connecting your water source, your tap or your tank, to your irrigation system. Now I'm going to keep it really simple, but you can get far more complicated and far more automated than this. This is just the 2 feeder pipes that are coming out of the ground here. They run across the path and down to the garden. And I've installed a filter in each to stop any unnecessary stuff ending up in my drip system. And also I've put a pressure reducing valve at the top. That'll mean if that water pressure does fluctuate, go much higher, it won't overload that system. I'm also going to connect up a simple 2-outlet tap timer, and that means I'll be able to set each of those areas to water on different days for different lengths of time as they need it. The first time you fire up the system, leave everything open and let the water flow, because it'll flush out any dirt or debris that's gotten in there. And I like to leave the ends open. Some people join it as a box, but I leave each and every one open. And instead of putting a cap on it, I just use a simple technique that means I can open it any time I want. So I just clamp it together, just kick the hose. We all know what a blockage that can cause. So that means that any time that I need to flush this line, if I accidentally put a hole in it and have to repair it, I can just take the end off and flush it clean. A little bit of mulch, of course. It's got to be how you finish every Gardening Australia story, but it's also going to help to keep that valuable moisture in the soil. And I won't lie to you, I find irrigation a little bit annoying, and I have really resisted doing this job, but I'm sure it's going to pay dividends. Watering at the roots, it keeps water off the foliage, it prevents disease, and it's a really efficient way to do it. It's also going to give me a little bit of freedom to go away and leave my lettuce for the weekend if I so desire. So this bit of work, I think, is going to pay huge dividends for our little garden.